Single dad agreed to a blind date as a favor. He didn't expect the CEO across the table. Jason stared at the text on his phone, sighing. Come on, it's just one date. Favor for me, please. It was his sister, ever the matchmaker, insisting he meet someone she'd picked out. As a single dad juggling a full-time job and parenting his 7-year-old son, Max, dating had long been optional and exhausting. Still, Jason agreed. He figured one dinner wouldn't hurt. Kindness isn't just for strangers. Sometimes it's for family, he thought, shrugging. The restaurant was cozy, dimly lit with candles flickering on each table. Jason arrived early, fiddling with the tie he rarely wore. He had no expectations, just a quiet hope that he'd get through the evening without awkward silences. Then she walked in, confident, poised, every inch the person he would never have imagined sitting across from him on a blind date. Her tailored blazer, sleek hairstyle, and the subtle sparkle in her eyes commanded attention. She scanned the room, and when her gaze met Jason's, she smiled politely. Jason, she asked. Yes. Emily? He replied, fumbling with his napkin. The conversation started cautiously, as it often does on first dates. Polite smiles and small talk about work, hobbies, and weekend routines. Then Emily laughed, a genuine, unguarded laugh at one of Jason's self-deprecating jokes, and something shifted. Minutes in, a waiter delivered a fresh water glass for Max, who had come along, because babysitters were hard to find on short notice. Emily's eyes softened as Max waved shyly from the high chair. Is this your son? She asked. Yes, Jason said, a twinge of pride in his voice. He's the boss of my life. Emily leaned in, genuinely interested, asking questions, sharing stories of her own childhood and challenges. Jason found himself relaxing, seeing beyond her polished exterior into a warmth that surprised him. The night was going smoothly until the conversation veered to Emily's work. That's when Jason realized who she was. She wasn't just successful. She was the CEO of the tech company that had just rejected his small business's partnership proposal. His mind raced. Wow, I'm literally having dinner with the woman who... He considered mentioning it, maybe laugh it off, but something in her demeanor, humble, kind, attentive, made him pause. She was more than the title on her business card. Instead, Jason focused on the moment. He listened as Emily shared her story, the late nights, the failures, the pressure of leading a global company, and the guilt she sometimes felt for missing the small moments in life, like dinner with a friend or attending her niece's school play. Somewhere between dessert and laughter over Max's messy attempts at ice cream, Jason realized something important. Kindness doesn't need a title, and success doesn't excuse loneliness. Finally, Emily leaned forward and said softly, You know, I almost canceled tonight. But I'm glad I didn't. Jason smiled, feeling the weight of the day lift. Me too, it's been unexpectedly wonderful. As they left the restaurant, Emily helped Max with his little coat, her patience and warmth evident. Jason couldn't help but think that sometimes the universe has a strange sense of humor. It puts people in your path who challenge your expectations and reward your kindness. Weeks later, they weren't just dating. They were partners in life, balancing work, parenting, and a newfound friendship that had blossomed into love. Jason often reflected on that blind date, grateful he had agreed as a favor, grateful he had stayed open, and grateful for the reminder that compassion, patience, and a willingness to see beyond the surface could change lives, sometimes in ways you never expect. Because in the end, it wasn't just about a blind date or a CEO across the table. It was about humanity, connection, and the simple act of showing up for someone, even when it wasn't convenient. And that, Jason realized, was worth more than any business deal or even any perfect evening could ever be. Key highlights for narration. Strong hook. Jason's reluctant agreement and busy single dad life. Relatable themes: parenthood, selflessness, kindness. Emotional twist. The CEO is the person across the table. Heartfelt climax. Genuine connection over status, titles, and expectations. Uplifting message. Compassion and openness can lead to unexpected joy. In the weeks that followed, Jason and Emily's lives began to intertwine in unexpected ways. It wasn't the whirlwind romance you see in movies. It was slower, steady, and profoundly real. Emily would pick Max up from school when Jason's shifts ran late, and Jason discovered he genuinely enjoyed her laughter, filling their small apartment as they cooked dinner together. One rainy Saturday, Jason was at the local grocery store, juggling a shopping cart and Max's constant chatter, when his phone buzzed. It was Emily. "Hey, I'm nearby. Can I come help?" Jason laughed. "You mean supervise the chaos?" "Exactly," she replied, smiling through the phone. When she arrived, Max ran to her, arms wide. Emily knelt down, ruffling his hair, and Jason felt a warmth he hadn't experienced in years. Watching them together, he realized that kindness, simple, patient, everyday acts, was the glue that held people together, far more than grand gestures or money ever could. Then came a moment that would stay with Jason forever. One evening, Emily had taken a rare night off work and they were tucked into their living room, Max asleep upstairs. They talked about their pasts, the mistakes they'd made, the pressures they'd faced. "I used to think success meant having it all," Emily admitted, staring at the flickering candlelight. "But now I see it means having people who care enough to show up, even on ordinary days." Jason reached for her hand. "I feel the same. That night when you walked in, I didn't care that you were a CEO. I cared that you were here, really here for us." There was silence, but it wasn't awkward. It was the kind of quiet that holds meaning. They leaned into it, hearts open, and for the first time in a long time, Jason felt completely at peace. Months passed, and their bond only deepened. Emily, despite her powerful position, never let her title define her in front of Max or Jason. She celebrated small victories, hugged tightly during failures, and even attended Max's school recital, something she had previously considered too trivial to schedule around her board meetings. One evening, Jason reflected on how far they had come. A simple favor, a blind date, had turned into a life-changing connection. And through it all, he realized that kindness wasn't just about doing things for others. It was about being present, being patient, and letting people see the real you. At the next family dinner, Jason's sister toasted to Jason for finally saying yes, and for finding someone who reminds us that life's greatest rewards often come when we least expect them. Max raised his juice cup and added, "And to Emily for being awesome." Jason smiled,